Perfect. Okay, so welcome everybody. It's hard to believe we're at another full moon. Like I feel like we just had a new moon, but here we are in the full moon already. So we're all already connected. Y'all know me. I'm Jade. You all know Tonks, always around, smiling at all of us. But all of you don't know each other. So feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. You can let people know where you're from and what brought you to today's moon circle. We haven't had one live in a while, so I'm excited to do one live. We've been doing a lot of them pre-recorded, so it's fun to have everybody's energy here today. Perfect. And while you all are introducing yourselves, I'm going to start shuffling up the tarot cards. I've still been rewatching Buffy, so of course we're using the Buffy tarot deck today. How can we not? Yes, my other East Coaster. So nice to have another East Coaster. Then we have Cali and Hawaii represented, so we're all over the place. Everyone's going to want to come be with you, Tracy. I keep seeing that people are frozen everywhere else.
We're cold here, though, too. Granted, my cold is 70 degrees, but it's still cold.
That's what I was about to say. We have a Philly girl on here, so.
but this is how I have to tell people on all my Zoom calls. Nobody here has a fireplace. Well, that's not true. Some people have fireplaces, but they don't know how to use them. And nobody has heat. So when it's dips low, it's cold for us. Like I have shorts on, and I was just telling my husband as he walked in the house, I'm like, I really wish I could like change my clothes really quick because it's cold.
That's true. I mean, I grew up without air conditioning in West Virginia, so I don't know. I'm not used to the heat. I bet you really didn't either. And well, did you in Philly? I feel like the more northern-ish areas don't. Oh no. Sorry, just responding to a message I saw coming through. Chris is blowing up my from class. He has a class assignment due.
Uh-oh. Did he get it done?
Well, they gave an extension, but apparently the whole class has done it wrong. It's a GIS, and the person is a like a practitioner for the government and has never taught it before. And we all know what teaching technical software is like to students, I imagine. So he's sending quite the expletives. All right, come on, cards. What do we need to know collectively for this full moon? There they go. This is so different than this morning. We've got some different messages coming through. And a lot of them. There was only like 2 cards this morning. Ooh. Okay. The first card that fell out is the Tower card. So, you know, definitely not what I expected to see come out. But this moon is all about relationships. Yeah, upright. A bunch of the others were not upright. So that's interesting too. This deck likes to throw things reversed as well. So when the Tower comes up, we are going through big changes, and it's forced. The universe is forcing us to experience big changes, and it can feel daunting at the best of times, because who doesn't want to not be in control, right? So even though it feels hard, even though it can be really daunting, know that on the other side of this is a lot of positive change. You just have to get through the really hard part right now. We also have the 7 of Stakes. So this is very much like the Seven of Wands energy. This is our only upright. Let me move these around so I don't flip them. This is our only other upright card for this reading, which is kind of crazy to me. Moving my bar around so I can see your messages of these. So that's pretty crazy. And you can see it here with good old Buffy, and I think it's just Buffy, like, you know, fighting on the Hellmouth per usual. But Seven of Wands is a really powerful card, reminding us to stand in our power. It is letting us know that there's going to be some challenges, or there have been challenges lately, and we will get to the other side of them. We will get through them. Even though it is terrifying, even though it can be really difficult, we will get through any challenges that come our way. This is a time where we have not been feeling in our power or our magic. This is the Empress reversed. And so we have to draw back into that. We have to take that stance. We have to know that we are powerful for these things to be shifting. It is very much that healing vibe, but also it's like with that kick of badass, right? Like we can be all love and light and this is great, but if we aren't also going forth with confidence and kind of putting our feet down when we have to, then people don't always take us seriously. It is going to feel very much like a time for fighting and a time for standing our ground. But keep in mind that we have to be careful how we do so. Some things are not worth a fight. Some things are things we have to release and let go of. And it also goes back to being able to balance. There's been a lot of things off balance right now with this Seven of Pentacles, and we have to be able to balance our life. It's one of those things, you know. The idea that we never have to have balance in our life, it just isn't possible, right? Because no matter what, we're always juggling something. And this is that reminder of that, is to take time to find that balance. And that's going to really help with moving through these emotions. And we also have another reminder with the reversed Queen of Stakes about how important it is to have self-respect, to be confident, and to reestablish a sense of self, and also reestablish any boundaries. And that's really important with this full moon, because the Libra full moon is all about boundaries and relationships. So it makes sense that kind of asserting your dominance in a way is going to be really important with this moon, even though it sometimes feels a little uncomfortable. So do you all feel like you have any areas in your life that you're having to kind of reassert your dominance, you know, reestablish some boundaries? Definitely seeing some yeses. And that is going to be a huge part of this moon. It's had me thinking about it so much already today. So what's the big deal with full moons? Everything is amplified on a full moon. The sadness, the big feelings, the wondering how we're going to make things work, the questioning ourselves is all really amplified on a full moon. That is also why full moons get a bad rap, is because our emotions are heightened, our feelings are heightened, and we're just feeling things more intensely. I know I definitely felt this shift starting last night, and it has felt a lot calmer today, but it's definitely bringing forth some big lessons. So the Libra full moon in particular is all about the relationships in your life and the needing to heal them and examine them. And this can be hard. It can be stressful. The thing is, we are all in the world with other people, right? And when we say relationships, people often think of a partnership, like a romantic partnership, right? But we have relationships with everybody. We have relationships with the people we work with. We have relationships with our various family members, with our friends, with bosses, with, anybody we're coming in contact with in a regular basis. And each of us have a mission that we're moving through. Each of us have a life that we're trying to live in our own bubbles, right? But the thing is, for any relationship to succeed, we have to honor each other. We have to respect each other. We have to support each other. And that often comes with compromise, conscious listening, and the willing to let things go, even if maybe we were right about the situation, right? The holding on to grudges, the holding on to things of the past can be really damaging to a relationship. So this moon is going to help us survey our relationships and help us see if they're supporting us, if they're limiting us, how we can feel encouraged in our journeys and other people's journeys, but also bringing forth patience, compassion, and the willingness to listen to other people's perspectives, which I feel is something that's been, like, in a lot of ways lacking over the past few years, right? Living with others in this world isn't always easy, but when we look at it from a place of love and that we're all just doing our best most of the time, it gets a lot easier. So a big theme is protecting your peace by examining and establishing boundaries. And boundaries are hard. Do you feel like you all were taught how to make boundaries growing up? Right? Yeah, like definitely not something I was taught either. I definitely didn't see them modeled for me. It wasn't really like a thing. Like, what was always the answer? Because I said so. Because I asked you to. It wasn't really this conversation about boundaries. Even, and it's been like that for a long time, right? For generations, the idea that you don't have your own space or own property or anything in a home, like as a kid, right? But the thing is, boundaries really help us create and maintain inner harmony, because people affect our energy, our emotions, and our thoughts so often. I know that it's taken a lot of work for me personally to decide that I'm not going to let someone else's anxiety or feelings impact me. And that's really hard. Or even saying, that's their problem, that's their thoughts. Like, it's not my business if they're upset about X, Y, and Z. Because sometimes we take that on and carry it in a way that is really damaging to us. We're like absorbing their emotions, and it can cause us a lot of inner turmoil, right? So some examples of a lack of boundary can be saying yes when we really mean no. It can be people pleasing. It can be being afraid of upsetting someone by sharing our truths, our needs, or just by trying to communicate. Can even be kind of oversharing your emotional, like, thoughts, feelings, struggles, or having people do that to you. And it can make you feel annoyed and angry. I had a therapist say one time that once you start getting angry about a situation, that's when your boundaries are being crossed time and time again, right? Because the first time, you stepped on my toe. But right when somebody steps on your toe, the same person time and time again, you start to get a little pissed off because they're literally crossing into your boundaries. And it also can create this feeling of being irritated at yourself for not upholding boundaries. And these conversations, they're not easy. And they can be really hard to set and maintain. And you can get a lot of pushback from people, especially if they are used to being able to kind of railroad you in those situations. But when people in relationships have clear boundaries, they have clear communications around expectations and compromises, it helps them grow. It helps keep our peace and helps us to stay on track with the things that we are wanting to do, because we're not spending a lot of time being wrapped up in kind of other people's drama. And some people may make you feel like boundaries are causing harm in your relationship, but truly, it's really important, right? If you have a parent that always, I don't know, asks about an ex and it makes you upset or sad every time, wouldn't a great boundary be you don't really want to talk about them because it makes you upset? And that is creating a clear boundary. If you have a parent that pops over unexpectedly and it's just not kind of how you want the relationship to be, you would like a little notice, then setting that boundary of asking if it's okay, letting someone know before they show up at your house would be a form of a boundary. And that really helps build healthy relationships, right? Maybe if we were taught how to establish these boundaries early on, we wouldn't like run off and have people moving all the way across the country, right, to like get away from their parents. But we still can prioritize our needs and have these boundaries while supporting other people, because that's something that can be said really quickly is, you know, you're just looking out for your needs and your boundaries, but it's okay to have a two-way street on what you both need. So when it comes to boundaries and trying to figure them out, you can ask yourself some of these questions. What relationships nourish you? What relationships drain you? Where do you need more balance? And where do you need more boundaries? And in this age where we're constantly sharing your life, we're easily accessible, it can be hard to set those boundaries. Like, do you remember when we were kids and there were times that you could call your friend's house, right? Like some friends, it had to be after 10 a.m., but some friends, they, you know, everybody was always up. So you could wait till 8, you know, and then there were times where it wasn't appropriate to call someone's home phone anymore. Where now we're all easily accessible all the time. It's hard to turn it off. And so people don't always have these boundaries as communicating with others. And so that can be something that shows up a lot. I know my mom used to flip out in college if I didn't respond at least once a day. Like, she'd be like, I'm calling the cops. I don't know if you're alive. But what would have happened if we didn't have cell phones when I was in college? But know that during this moon, you can assess these relationships. You can look at the boundaries and move through this full moon feeling really centered and figuring out the things that you need. You can look at the connections in your life and see if there are some relationships that maybe need to fade away, or some relationships that need repair. And that can even be difficult too in talking about these things that need help in relationships. But no, it's all a learning experience, and that we're all just really trying to do our best. So these Libra focuses we've talked about a lot. So looking at your relationships, releasing relationships that no longer serve you. But a big thing is knowing that you are already whole. Like, no relationship makes you complete. No relationship has to be there, you know, for you to survive. And so moving through these relationships and really taking that time for your self-worth and self-confidence, like we saw in the tarot cards, are going to be really powerful. Relationships come in all shapes and sizes, right? We have some friends that, you know, maybe we love to go out and get a drink with them, but they're not the friend that you run to when things are hard, or vice versa. And that's how relationships have different parts in our lives. We bond with people at different times in our lives. Sometimes it's only for a short time, and sometimes these are lifelong relationships. And it can be hard letting go of relationships or working on healing relationships, but it's really important for them to be healthy and thriving to do so. So as you're thinking on these relationships, as you are moving through these feelings, these are 3 really good crystals to keep around. Quartz is very much an all-purpose crystal that's going to keep you grounded and your energy just feeling light and charged and clean. Carnelian is connected to that Aries energy. It's very fiery, but it's going to help you with your self-confidence and with relationships. And lapis lazuli is going to connect you to your higher self, to your intuition, and to your deeper consciousness. So you can really focus on what these relationships look like and how you can move forward with them in a really healthy way. And do you think this is something that you all have done on a regular basis, is looking at relationships and how they're serving you, and how you're serving other people too? Or is it kind of just when there's a problem and we figure it out, or we don't and it gets really awkward? I think it can vary a lot depending on the relationship, right? Like some people you might feel really comfortable letting them know that they hurt you or crossed a boundary, where some people we know that they aren't going to respond well with all of that, right? So it can be really, really tricky navigating that. Yes, that's definitely how I grew up too. Like confrontation was not something that I was taught to do even in a healthy way, right? So I'll get mad and like just run. Like I'll stop and be like, I'm out, peace. Like there are so many things I've given up in my life because of that, because of feeling like it's uncomfortable, right? But it doesn't really serve us. I had a kind of a situation with one of my best friends from college. You know, we've been friends for 12 years, and it was just a miscommunication. You know, we just needed to clear the air once or twice, and it was easy, you know, to just for us both to say, hey, I didn't realize this was going on. Like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, man, I'm still learning things from her 12 years later. And I wish it was something I would have learned when I was 12. Like that would have saved me a lot of drama. So let's start thinking about some of these concepts. So we're going to do some full moon journaling. I want to make sure I save time for Reiki as well. So I'm going to turn on some music. We're going to go prompt by prompt with the journaling. I'm going to do about 3 minutes for each prompt. So you may want to go back and write even more after the call on these, just depending on how it goes. So let me get our music going.
It's just a look. The
cat's even jealous.
My love is just a reminder.
Okay.
My love is just a reminder. Find your center.
So here is our first prompt. Are there any relationships in your life?
Well, help me recall that first morning, sunlight at dawn, and cracks on the floor. Well,
what if they
there's a warning, everything's changing.
What karma made them work out?
So amazing.
And how can you have gratitude
drove
for
through
them?
the mountains, cows in the street, prayer beat to accountant. There was the river, eternal giver, flowing forever. Remember, find your center. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. lost your way, colors start to fade. Take a look within, find your offering. Hold it to the sun, let your spirit run. Remember, find your center. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder.
Okay, your next question is, what does a healthy relationship feel and look like to you?
I am resilient, I trust the movement, I negate the chaos, uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to listen. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh.
What helps ground you in the present moment when in communication with another person? Think about how you can keep your past out of the present to respond only to what's being discussed.
To stay uplifted, pipelines through backyards, wolves howling out fronts. Yeah, I got my crew, but truth is what I want. Realigned and on point, power to the peaceful, prayers to the waters, women at the center, all vessels open to give and receive. Let's see the system brought down to its knees. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Oh, so sorry about that. Let me try and turn it down a little bit. What helps you ground in the present moment when in communication with another person? How can you keep your past out of the present and respond only to what is being discussed? So think about, like, I know something for me, if my husband wants to like have a big, like a talk, like if he wants to talk about something, and he just like runs downstairs and starts trying to have some kind of big conversation, and I'm like literally in the middle of typing. I can't be in the present moment to have that conversation. Yes. That's a big one that we have been working on in our house, because I want to be present, but I do have ADHD, right? And so if I can't just turn off my brain to, unfortunately, to what is being discussed. I am trying to grab that prompt now.
That's fine. I just didn't see it the screen
Oops.
before.
Yeah, I feel like it's a big work in progress one, especially because we have so many distractions. Like, what even can be like a present moment? Like, that kind of sounds bad, but it's almost starting to pay attention to when you aren't even in the present moment with communication, right? I'll often flip over my cell phone. If I'm hanging out with people or something like that, maybe I won't even pull it out. But all big things to think about. But I've definitely tried to start noticing when I'm not fully present, when I'm being communicated with. So this Libra moon also teaches us that opposites can exist simultaneously. So how can you accept and embrace different opinions or experiences from your partner or any relationship, knowing sometimes that you're both right? I think about that idea of when there's a car crash, there's two perspectives, and then there's kind of like what happened, right? So we all experience things very differently, and how we meant something may not be how someone took it. And those are both valid human experiences, but do we have to argue over what was said, how it made the person feel? Like, that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. Not that that ever happens in our household. And how can you see their perspective more clearly, even if it's not changing your own mind? Chris will do this thing where he answers, but I like can't hear him. I don't know if it's at a pitch, if he's answering in his head, if he's trying to telepathically communicate. And it used to piss me off so much.
I wish Kevin had that.
Annoy me. Tracy, does your hubby do that too?
No, I said I wish he had that because that would be great. I was just going to say that I'm really good at this because I am in love with a Trump supporter.
Right? Right? Oh my goodness. Yeah. So you have to be able to see those differences.
We're really good. Otherwise, we'd kill each other.
Right. My parents definitely go through that with politics. And even when Chris and I first met, he was very sheltered. And so there was a lot of unpacking that had to be done to, I bet Kevin's going crazy this week. I meant to ask you if he was going nuts.
Oh, he just kept telling me he's going to be innocent. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're probably right. Because all we want to do is spend taxpayers' money and waste people's time. So
Totally.
And he was right. So we're good.
Totally. Right. So it can be, it's all these different perspectives, right? All these different things that can be equally true and difficult at the same time. And I think this one takes a lot of practice too. It's like an ongoing activity all the time.
We've been together for over 20 years. And I would say the first decade of being together, we fought like cats and dogs.
Really?
Like even my mom was like, are you sure you want to be in a relationship? But we're really good fighters. Like we can fight and it sounds like it's World War III, but then 10 minutes later, we're fine. It's just we're both very robust, dominant people. So when he gets louder, I get louder. So it really does sound bad.
Yeah. But I also think it's so healthy, right? Like I think about like my parents, well, really my mom's like the really loud fighter. My dad would be really quiet to a point, but then where Chris's parents, he's never seen them fight like
Yeah.
in front of him. Right. Like but he sees my parents do that all the time. When we were talking about the other day, not that like they're the picture of perfect, healthy fighting like my parents, but for
No, it's
sure, like not seeing it all isn't healthy.
I just remember with my parents, we would never know that anything was wrong until my mother was crying. Like there
Yeah.
wouldn't be no conversation. It's like, why is mom crying? How did that happen? Where my dad and I, like, I never understood because my dad and I are really similar. And I'm like, how did I not hear him upset her? Like,
Yes. Yes. And it sometimes comes down to styles, or like I have a friend whose parents fought so much and so viciously. Even if she hears Chris and I play fight, she'll kind of be like she can't deal with that, right? It's too triggering for her. And so it gets really complex. Like she's definitely not a friend that I would like play. Like, you have to be delicate with her feelings on that, which is understandable. And so think about these as they're coming up this full moon, and even beyond, right? Because these are things that we haven't been able to really have modeled for us in a lot of ways. So you can also think about what helps you set and uphold clear boundaries with people. I know for all of us, they don't necessarily come easily. Um, but also think about what are your non-negotiables, right? Even if it feels uncomfortable to state them. And I'll send this out as a replay too. So this can be something that you're continuously thinking about. I know when I started thinking about non-negotiables this morning, it was very like, well, duh, I want to be respectfully communicated to, or, things like that. But what does that actually look like in practice, And what is it for the other people too? And then what about expressing your feelings? What helps you understand your feelings more deeply? Are you actually feeling your feelings or just kind of thinking about them? Perfect. So think about these as you're moving throughout the week. And let's anchor into some Reiki healing after having all of these conversations about boundaries and what they look like and how they make us feel. So I'm going to stop my share and you can get comfortable. You can get relaxed. And we are going to do some Reiki healing now. So when you're ready, you can take some deep breaths in and out. In and out. Really anchoring in to this moment that you've carved out for yourself. And I am going to start our music back as we anchor in to this healing. Go ahead and take a deep breath in and out. Another deep breath in and out, making your way back. How is everybody feeling? We put a cat to sleep for sure.
Aka's asleep over here.
Aww. Sweet Aka. Relax. Good. I'm glad. Hopefully feeling calm. I'm ready to take on. Okay, be difficult on the full moon energies. Uh-oh. There we go. And tackle all that is to come. So thank you all for being here for this live full moon experience, helping me get Bucky to sleep, you know, all the things. So I can't wait to hear how you're all feeling tomorrow, how you're feeling the rest of the night. And I'll check in with you all soon. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bucky says bye.